Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another QMR set of reviews. And this time we're going to be talking about a couple of Jean-Claude Van Damme films as well as Final Score starring Dave Bautista, Pierce Brosnan, and Ray Stevenson, which just came out last year. Yeah, it is a somewhat odd combination, sort of, at least when you bring, a movie like, two JCVD movies, basically, than a, current, sort of more recent action film. But it does still fit together, because, again, two of them are Van Damme films, and with Sudden Death and Final Score being in it, they're pretty damn similar. So I thought it'd be good to put them together and get both of them done at the same time. First we're going to talk about Sudden Death, which came out in 1995 and again stars, of course, Jean-Claude Van Damme, as well as Powers Booth playing our bad guy here. It's about a former fireman who takes on a group of terrorists holding the vice president and others hostage during the 7th game of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. And you also have Raymond J. Barry in here, who's been in a lot of TV, a lot of films as the vice president. So, this movie is arguably, I think, Van Damme's sort of most mainstream, I don't want to say generic, but it definitely played on how a lot of big action movies were presented around this time. According to IMDb, anyway, this lead role was originally offered to Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. Schwarzenegger apparently turned it down because he had just finished working on True Lies and Junior. Probably wanted a little rest anyway. And Stallone just turned it down because of not liking the script or something like that. But you can sort of tell our lead character in this movie, played by Van Damme, Darren McCord, was sort of meant for more of an action, big Hollywood actor like one of those two. Because, again, he's just supposed to be a fireman, not necessarily any special combat training or martial arts training or anything like that. We have Van Damme here, who of course is a very particular type of fighter in a movie usually. And there's no real explanation for how well he can fight. But then again, the movie doesn't really go too overboard with what Van Damme does in this movie. There's nothing too crazy in the fight scenes, choreography-wise. Van Damme does throw some strong kicks, which is pleasing to see. He gets kind of resourceful and everything as he would have to. But, you don't really stretch it too far in terms of what this fireman can do, at least for the most part. So it's good that they found that balance there. For anyone who likes to pick movies apart, I guess, even though everyone will anyway. But I gotta say, even though this came off more like a Schwarzenegger or Stallone kind of role, more normal guy kind of thing. Again, this is one of these movies that definitely played off of the popularity of Die Hard. Big sort of building and, terrorists, that kind of thing, family possibly involved. This kind of movie just happens so much, but for Van Damme's effort, I actually really, really liked it. And again, talking about Van Damme, I actually don't mind when he plays a little bit more of a grounded character. Or at least has, like family ties in the film or something like that. It makes him feel a little bit more human, a little more real. And seeing Van Damme smile and interact with kids, it's kind of fun sometimes. And the child actors they had in this weren't bad either. The son is a bit frustrating at first, because Van Damme's character, he had gone through a traumatic experience as a fireman. He tried to save a little girl, but it turned out the other firefighters were the ones that didn't get to him soon enough. But so he ends up working security at the stadium, and his son, of course, not really fully understanding what his dad went through, thinks he's scared to be a fireman now and things like that. But of course, as the movie goes, he gets to really have a sense of pride that that's his father, of course, because all the shit Van Damme is having to pull off and save everybody. And his daughter, meanwhile, she's adorable. She still sort of idolizes her father from the start, and so that gets to be quite charming as well. And again, Powers Booth, I gotta talk about. I've seen him in a number of things. I'm sure you have too. He's quite a good villain. He almost has that sort of Bond villain sort of charm to it, but he doesn't really go too overboard. I liked him quite a bit. Raymond J. Barry, if you've seen him on Justified as the main character's father on that, he can be quite an erratic actor. But in this, he comes off, decent and, sort of honorable, like, what Vice President should be anyway. So I liked him. And then you also have Dorian Harewood here as Hallmark. He's one of these officers who, may not be the greatest. But there's some, good action sequences in this. There are some good fight scenes, despite it not being like a big martial arts showcase for Van Damme necessarily. It has a constant, sort of a sense of urgency-driven pace to it that I enjoyed. And it's just very accessible. It's one you could probably show a bunch of people who hadn't really seen a Van Damme film or want something a little bit more just sort of general. But yeah, I really, really like Sudden Death, actually. And if I had to rate it right now, I'm thinking around like an 89% B+, maybe even drifting into 90 range, I'm not sure. But I really liked it. I feel like I say this after almost every Van Damme movie I watch, but it could easily be on my top 10 list. I think it will be. So yeah, Sudden Death, liked it quite a bit. And now we're going to be talking about Final Score. Even though it didn't come out until after The Order, I just thought it was good to transition to this after a movie like Sudden Death. Like I said, Final Score came out just this past year in 2018. And stars Dave Bautista. And it's after deadly terrorists abduct his niece at a soccer match. An ex-soldier with lethal fighting skills wages a one-man war to save her and prevent mass destruction. So it is a little different, but it's the same type of general scenario, really. And this Bautista's character is actually trained. But I actually liked how they handled that, because he has this. He basically looks in on the widow and daughter of someone he served with, and they're very, very close, almost like brothers, as he says. So he looks on them, and they're even so close to him that they call him Uncle. So he ends up taking the daughter to a soccer match before he leaves again and everything like that. And they do a good job of making it feel like Bautista's character has a lot of weight, a lot of trauma from what happened to the dad and everything like that. And I gotta say, this is probably one of Dave Bautista's best acting performances, particularly in a scene he shares with Pierce Brosnan. Where he actually talks about what happened during one of the skirmishes and everything like that. Bautista has a really good presence to him, yet he feels grounded, and I think his sort of dialogue delivery has gotten even better over the years. He's not just like a big muscle actor anymore. He feels a little more refined than he used to. And I always like Ray Stevenson. He was great in season 7 of Dexter. He was really good as Blackbeard in Black Sails. And in a number of other roles. He was basically a good Punisher trapped in a bad movie as well. And he's basically our main bad guy here. He has the presence and sort of physicality to believably fight Bautista. And then you also have someone like Martin Ford in this, who has been in a number of action films. Including some Scott Adkins work and everything like that as well. So it's good to see him here. And Bautista have a good little confrontation in the kitchen. And he could have wanted a little more physical fight scenes in this movie, but they do have. It's pretty good for the most part. Then you have a decent chase sequence involving a motorcycle through the stadium. And for a low-budget film, I gotta say it was better than something else that came out around the same time, which was Skyscraper with The Rock. I love The Rock, but that movie is just so by the numbers and just so predictable. I don't know, I was just bored with that one. But this one had a far lower budget, and I think was honestly a better film, both from that action angle as well as the substance, the bit of substance it does manage to have anyway. But yeah, so you do get to care about Bautista's character in this, for what it is. You also have this employee in the movie who tries to help him out a little bit as well. So yeah, if I had to rate final score, I'd give it about 85-86%, right around a solid B there. I did like it quite a bit for what it was. I was kind of pleasantly surprised, actually. I was expecting it to be a bit sort of disturbed there, but I think it exceeds that, at least by a certain margin. So yeah, final score I liked quite a bit. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about The Order, also starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, which came out in 2001, and also features a appearance from Charlton Heston. This is actually one of his last movies he played in. Of course, Charlton Heston being quite a basically legendary actor, really, for decades. And the movie was directed by Sheldon Littich, who has directed Van Damme in a number of his best movies, honestly. So when they pair those two together, whenever Van Damme works with that director, I think there's something good to find out of it. I mean, they worked on Lionheart. Well, he was a writer in that, really. But it's just this combination that seems to draw something out of both of them. Lionheart, I think, is possibly my favorite Van Damme film, possibly. Double Impact is another one. Yeah, he was also the director of Lionheart, excuse me there. And as well as The Hard Corps, which I haven't watched yet, but yeah, that is a pretty good sign right there. And I was pleasantly surprised by The Order. It's, of course, one of his direct-to-video films, so people sort of look down on it right away because of that. But honestly, I like The Order more than some of his more wide releases, really, some of his bigger releases that even went to theaters. I think The Order exceeds at least some of them for me. We'll talk more about that whenever I eventually do a top 10 Van Damme video or something. But yeah, it's about a playboy criminal who contacts his dad after stealing a Furburge egg. Later, it seems his dad has gone missing in Israel, so he heads there. His disappearance is linked to the religious sect, The Order, lots of fight and chasings. That's literally what IMDb said. But yeah, this movie also stars Ben Cross, who I particularly know as a significant antagonist in the show Banshee, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. He was in Undisputed 2, excuse me, and a bunch of other stuff over the years. He also have Brian Thompson, who has actually played a villain towards Van Damme in the past, so it's good to see him here as well. He actually turns out to be our sort of main physical opposition, and it works quite well as a sort of religious, cult nut. I also gotta say I like Sophia Milos in this. She played Dahlia. She was one of these officers in Israel, but she actually, of course, takes sympathy to Van Damme, or his character Rudy's, goal here, and she ends up trying to help him, of course. And there may be something that develops between them, but I thought she came across strong and kind of smart herself at the same time. They could have had just like a generic sort of action female in it, but I thought she was better than that. And then the actor who played his father as well did a fine job as well, although he's not in it much. But yeah, this movie is a little bit lighter for sure, but I think that's something that actually kind of worked about it. It sort of has like a classic action movie, action adventure sort of feel to it. It feels like almost like a movie Jackie Chan would have done or something like that. It has more of a fun factor to it than some of Van Damme's films, which tend to be a little more self-serious. There's a pretty fun chase sequence through one of the towns where Van Damme's actually in this, I think it's a Jewish disguise or something like that. It's pretty funny. And just the character in general, he's a bit more erratic, a bit more unpredictable. He's not like a straight up good guy, although he has a decent sense of right and wrong. He has quite a bit of a personality to him. He keeps touching his father's his father's artifacts that he possesses, and his father keeps getting ticked off and overreacting. So you can see Van Damme sort of smile and laugh more again in this. It's kind of refreshing to see in both this and Sudden Death, but this one especially is quite different for him individually. And the movie goes where you think it goes, just like most of these, but it feels like a movie I wish I would have watched when I was younger. It feels like one that I could have watched 20 times or something like that, just because it's so easy to jump into and just enjoy. I think it's one that's definitely gone under the radar in terms of a Van Damme catalog, and I'm liking it the more I talk about it, just more and more. So I feel like if I watch it again, hey, maybe this one could be in my top 10 too. Like I said, I do like it better than some of his bigger releases, surprisingly. I'm giving it like an 87-88% B+, basically. So yeah, I want you guys thought about the order, as well as Sudden Death and Final Score. What's your favorite out of these? Just random question, what are some of your favorite Van Damme films? What's your favorite Bautista role so far? So yeah, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. And again, Sudden Death is pretty similar to things like Die Hard, but which one would I watch again? I don't know. Cool Van Damme shirt I got not too long ago. Pretty awesome. Anyway, catch you guys next time. Like, subscribe, and peace.